There once was a hobbit. I was that hobbit. It's a well-known fact that hobbits don't like adventures, but I am no ordinary hobbit. Like my great-great-great Uncle Gamwise Samji, I've got a couple adventures under my belt. On my most recent adventure, I started off with my heart full of excitement and my stomach full of Batter Folgy's famous baked potatoes. However, after my third breakfast, I was already low on food. The cold weather and rain started to get to me. It was the kind of wind that chilled one to the bones. So I foraged for food. It proved harder than I thought. With no other choice, I tightened my belt and trotted on. I braved many perils and fought many battles.
For the Shire! For the Shire!
I climbed stone walls, rope walls, brick walls. Only when there were no more wars to be fought, I continued with my journey. However, I got lost. Thankfully, I met an ant along the way. But the greatest victory on this, and perhaps all my adventures, was when I eluded my enemy. They caught me completely off guard. Without my trusty elven cloak, I would have been captured and delivered into the hands of a great enemy.
Hello there, Trek family. I'm here in another cape that I made. This one's slightly smaller. Maybe it's more of a capelet. But the fun thing is that I made it simply out of a pillowcase. The one thing that you're going to need to do first is you're going to need to print off this page that we're going to have a document to somehow because you're going to need it for cutting out the neck hole right here. You can make do without it, but it's really a lot simpler. So, first thing is, usually a pillowcase has an open end. It usually has one side with a seam, if you can see that, and it has one side without a seam, but this one has two seams. So, we're going to pick this side, and we're going to snip along it. We're going to snip all the way down there, and then we're going to snip all the way across that end. You want to kind of snip a little bit to the right side of the seam. All the way down one side of the seam, and then come back to the other side. So you kind of have this cord, and we can use that later, the cord. You don't want to stray from the edge like I did. Try to keep it right along the edge there. And then, once you get to the top part of it, you just snip it off. Ta-da! You have a beautiful thread here. We want to cut along the top of the pillowcase. That's the open end. We're going to make this end open too. So I kind of like to hold it and just get all the way to the corner and stop. Here we go. We've got our pillowcase. It looks pretty much the same as before, except now we can open it, and it's one big square of fabric. All right, so we've got our large square of fabric, but before we cut the neck hole, we need to cut out our pattern. What we want to do is we want to line up the part with the arrows with the fold of our pillowcase. So let's put this back to where it looks like a normal pillowcase. We'll fold it back up again. You want to just tuck it right in the corner there like that. So you've got your fold right in here. And then your open edge just tucked right in the corner. And then you snip. My scissors aren't super sharp. Here we go. And now you have a cape just like the one I'm wearing. Ta-da! And then I just fastened mine with a safety pin. So you've got the cape that I'm wearing, the one with the neck hole and the safety pin. And what we're going to go and do next is add some stability to this neck hole so that it lasts longer. What we're going to do for that is we're going to sew it. So we're going to take our thread and we're going to measure however long the neck is, and then we're going to measure a little bit of extra on each side just in case. You can snip that and tie our knot. If you take it and you make a little loop, like that, little loop, then you tuck it through the loop. That's one knot, and then you want to try to tie another one right next to that. Make another little loop, tuck it through. Basically just try and make as big of a knot as you can. Now we have our first piece of fabric. We have our thread. We need our needle. Thread it through the needle. And we need our second piece of fabric, the one that goes on top. So I'm gonna grab this guy and I'm gonna lay him down across there and try to get him evenly matched. I'm gonna grab my needle and I'm gonna poke it up through both layers and pull. I'm gonna poke it down through both layers and up through both. Pull. There you go, you can see all the stitches. Then you want to end by making another knot. You gotta do it a bit different this way, or this side of things rather. So if you flip it over to the back, you make a little teeny tiny stitch. You go through the little tiny stitch underneath it, and before this gets all the way through, you go back through it. Dunk. Through the little tiny stitch and back through your own thread. Do that maybe like 5 times. And now we have a cape. Oh, I forgot. Snip the thread. Cape 2.0. It's got a neck. Bit more solid there. And then with the 2 little ends, you don't even need your safety pin anymore. You can just tie it with the 2 little threads. Ta-da! Hello, Trek family. I'm here with another craft for you guys. Today we are making books. Alright, so with that, let's get started. First of all, you're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to fold it in half, just like that. Fold it up, line up the corners, nice crease, and slice it. This is just, it's a dull knife, just so you know. It's not actually sharp. Then once you have 4 of these little guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. You can stack them and fold them in half again. Ta-da! This is called a ream. 1 ream for a book. 4 pieces of paper, kind of. And we'll keep on going with that. So now, just trying to show you. Now that we've got a bunch of these reams, they each have 4 pieces of paper and they're folded in half. We're going to punch some holes in the spines, but we want it to be even. So let's get our ruler out, open it up. Ta-da! If you're using a regular piece of paper, this should be about 14 centimeters. So I'm gonna mark it at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Now's the fun part. Take your washcloth, you fold it all up so it's a big cushion, because you don't want your push pin to be able to stab through and wreck the table. But you get it all there, and then you make sure your paper is lined up
stick it on and you stab through all the holes. And you do that with all your pieces of paper. I like to take the one that I've already used and use it to mark the next guy. Every 2 centimeters. And then once you've done that with all of your rings, all of your little folded bits of paper, they should all line up. They're all kind of lined up. Mine aren't perfect, but that's okay. And now comes time to sew. You want a pretty long thread for this. Mine's about that long. This is double. And a big needle is okay, big or small, whatever your string fits through. So you pick up your first ream. You open it up a little bit so you can kind of feel. And it's the same motion as the last video with sewing, where you go down and then up and then down and then up. And we start with this guy on the end. We go down and you pull it until you leave about that much of an end. And you come up through the next hole, down again. Oh, I should have been looking on the other side. I got a bit of a tangle. So I'll just pull and it'll come untangled, and then I can just keep on my stitching. Yep, all good. And then we get to add another ream. So we've stitched all the way across these holes, down, up, down, up, down, up. So we fold it all the way now. We get to grab a new guy, line them up right beside. You see that? Mm-hmm. And you get to go down through the hole right next to him. And this will start connecting them together. Ooh, I got a knot, so I just kind of pull at the strings. Kind of just have to loosen them, and then usually it just pops apart. Down, and then up. So very important, before we keep on going on and we add another stack of paper, we need to tie our string that we're working with to the tail from the beginning. Because if we don't, this is gonna flap apart in your nice little book. In contrast, this side, I can't even get my finger between it. It's very nicely secured there. So I'm just gonna lay this guy down and I'm gonna tie a knot between them. Don't tie it too tight, otherwise your paper will rip because it's paper, but you can make it pretty snug there. So now we've got 2 pieces of paper fastened together. There you go. Let's add a third one. We're gonna line this one up right underneath. Make sure the tail kind of stays out of the way. And we'll go straight down. Before I fasten it, I'm just gonna go back and I'm gonna tighten this stitch. So make sure it's nice and tight there. And I'm gonna tighten this stitch, pull the string, and in order to connect this guy to this guy, I'm gonna take my thread and I'm gonna go back under this first stitch. And then I can just pull it back up. It kind of loops itself around. Pull it nice and tight, secure. I can add my fourth. And then you just keep on going for as much paper as you have. Last fastening stitch would be right here. And then we pull it like that. So we have the string coming up between number 3 and number 4.
I'm just going to put it around my finger to keep it safe there. I'm going to go between these two. And I'm going to just pull straight up. So it's coming through this loop that I have my finger on. Just pull. And we'll do that again. Put it around my finger. Up through this last stitch. And then right now it's coming through this loop. Ta-da! Final step is snip the strings, but don't snip them too close. Otherwise, it will come undone. One string. There you go. You've got your book.